Today on Freedom Journal Iraq, long hauls on the road and water in the desert. Welcome to this edition of Freedom Journal Iraq. I'm Lance Corporal Jeff Ingersoll, and here's a look at events shaping the region. President George W. Bush, in a presidential proclamation, has designated September 15th as National POW MIA Recognition Day. Since 1979, Americans have taken this day to honor and encourage the sacrifice of service members who have been prisoners of war and those still missing. This year's theme, Honor Their Service, Fulfill Their Trust, reminds the nation to continue their search until every service member is accounted for. 2 service members remain missing in action in Iraq: Army Staff Sergeant Keith Maupin, missing since 2004, and Navy Captain Michael Specker, a pilot missing since the first day of Operation Desert Storm in 1991. In other news, Kellogg Brown & Root, known as KBR, is responsible for hauling supplies that service members use every day. Soldiers guard the trucks so they make it to their destination safely. Specialist Charles McLaughlin takes us to Balad and shows us how it's done.
Security is one of the greatest challenges facing troops in Iraq. Soldiers of the 3rd of the 321st Field Artillery stepped up to this challenge with a vengeance. They know the task is important because the trucks they guard haul supplies such as water and food, and that causes these soldiers to do their jobs well, knowing soldiers depend on those vital supplies.
I feel that we just do what we gotta do. And even though it's a little unsafe out there, it's very important. Our job is very important because no matter what, the other LSAs need the supplies. So we gotta make sure that they get over there, no matter what. It's basically because of us that they get their water, that they get their fuel, that they get their, basically that the supplies get from point A to point B.
Long, sleepless hours of driving describes the missions they perform, guarding the trucks from the deadly V-bids or car bombs each time they roll out the gate. Using Humvees and armored security vehicles, soldiers of the 321st travel with the convoys with a watchful eye and an alert mind. It's the pride in being a soldier that allows for these courageous men and women to fulfill these tough missions day after day. These soldiers are confident in those around them who work to lessen the risk to the mission at hand.
I mean, some of the guys, they get tired of going out there. They're like, oh, we got another mission today, we got another mission tomorrow. So they start getting tired, and some of them actually start losing their morale a little bit after we get missions every other day. So they started getting tired of it, but we just try to keep each other motivated and happy. Let them know, hey, we'll be going home soon. They start understanding the point of being here.
Specialist Perez is not the only soldier with feelings of confidence in the mission and the sense of duty to perform it to the best of their abilities.
The job needs to be done, so we do it for the guys that are here. Even though it's hard work, it's dangerous, you take a risk out there, but you do it for the guys you're with, because that's what matters the most, is the soldiers.
Their thoughts go beyond the soldiers of the 321 to the soldiers supported by the supplies the 321 hauls. The roads traveled by the 321 between Balad and Kiara expose the convoys to IEDs and V-bids. But the vehicles they use and the training they go through constantly allow them to overcome these dangers and push on with the mission. The time of this unit is coming to an end here in Iraq. Like many other units out here, however, they do not waver in their focus and support of the mission tasked to them. Keeping a steady mind and a strong hand, they ensure the continued success of themselves and the soldiers supported by the supplies delivered. Specialist Charles McLaughlin, Balad, Iraq.
After the break, a visit to an orphanage. Stay with us.
I'm very impressed by the work that men and women here in Iraq are doing on behalf of our country. You should be proud of yourselves. This is an extraordinary time in your lives. When you're my age, you'll look back at it and you won't regret a minute of it, assuming that you do it the way you ought to. Thank you so much on behalf of the United States of America.
Hello from Charlie 321 Field Artillery and LSA Anaconda. You're watching Freedom Journal Iraq on AFN.
Welcome back. With the help of coalition forces and civilians, a microfinance office opened in Radwaniyah. The center will provide small loans ranging from $200 to $3,000 to help people open their own small business. The Finance Center is the first of its kind in Iraq and is funded by the United States Agency for International Development. In other news, soldiers from the California National Guard and Task Force 134 help support an orphanage in Baghdad, home for many male youths. Army Sergeant Frank Marola tells us about the rich history the troops have with the orphanage.
There are conflicting reports of just how many orphans there are in Iraq. According to the U.S. Agency for International Development, there are thousands in Baghdad alone. Less than 10% of them are registered and being cared for by the Iraq Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. That's why service members all over Iraq are helping to support orphanages like the House of Wasiliya in Baghdad.
I think this is one of the more vital missions. We can do what we can do right now, but these guys are the future, and the influence, the impression that we probably leave on them, I think will make the future of Iraq here. I hope it does.
On this day, service members with the 49th Military Police Battalion from the California National Guard and Task Force 134 detainee operations visited the all-boys home to bring gifts and visit with the kids.
Let's show them Kassim. Let's see.
Sergeant Major Paul George knows firsthand the joy and sorrow that comes from providing assistance to orphanages. He's on his third deployment in Iraq and has been visiting the orphanage since 2003, when he and his unit helped place a young, ill orphan named Kassim.
During OIF 1, we were in Karbala and Najif, and we had a young boy who was abandoned. He was about 9 years old. And so we inherited him at our camp there in Karbala, and we just couldn't keep him there. It got too dangerous, so we were trying to find a location for him.
After providing Kassim with medical care, they found the House of Wasiliya orphanage and arranged for him to stay. Sadly, before the unit went home, Kassim passed away due to irreversible medical problems. But like Kassim's spirit, the unit's charity lives on.
The soldiers, especially on OIF 1, it was a lot of combat operations, and to be able to come back and do something like this in a humanitarian type effort was really made them feel a lot better.
The items, which were donated mostly by families and church groups in the U.S., include sporting goods, books, DVDs, clothes, toys, and fuel for the orphanage's generator. 16-year-old Sadala Salam, who has been a resident here for 8 years, says the boys are joyful when the troops visit. It makes the kids very happy, he says. The only thing we need now is security. So how do you think safety will be achieved here? With education, he says. According to Master Chief Gary Mason, missions like this are part of that education.
We're just people like them, and we want to help them out. We're not all just carrying guns and ready to fire.
There are 23 state-run orphanages in Iraq. 7 of them are in Baghdad.
These are some old friends and pretty good guys, and again, they're the future.
In Baghdad, I'm Army Sergeant Frank Marola with the 363rd Mobile Public Affairs Detachment.
Clean drinking water is important to service members and civilians deployed to Iraq. Water is readily available, but the question is, where does it all come from? Army Sergeant Mark McNabb explains the process of purifying water.
Are you thirsty yet? We get thirsty for good reason. Our health, even our lives, are dependent on a consistent source of pure, fresh, and clean water. Those of us serving Uncle Sam are indeed a thirsty bunch. To meet the demand, the military has hired Al Morel Development to set up facilities to meet the coalition forces' drinking water needs. John Edwards with El Morel describes the output capacity at 2 of their plants.
Here we do 500,000 liters a day. In Anaconda we're about 275 to 300,000 liters a day.
This water is drawn from an aquifer near the Tigris River and piped to the bottling. At these facilities, the water is put through a sophisticated 5-step purification process. John Edwards describes the last step.
And it goes through a second RO unit, a reverse osmosis filter. After the second RO filter, then it goes into what's called a contact tank where we ozonate the water. Ozone is being a natural disinfectant. After it's ozonated, then we bottle it.
Bottles are blown on site, filled, capped, and shrink wrapped on an automated assembly line. Every bottle is date stamped with a laser. They are pelletized, stored, and shipped to the many thousands of thirsty throats throughout Iraq. For your health's sake, drink another bottle or two today. I bet they have a few extra on hand. For the 210th MPAD, I'm Army Sergeant Mark McNabb.
Tune in to FJI tomorrow when Specialist Alexandra Hemmerly Brown talks to truckers who take pride in what they do.
long-term achievement is just to work together as a team and to transport as many supplies as we can to as many areas and just fulfill the need, but it is a great accomplishment.
Thanks for watching the newscast that brings you the stories from the front lines of the War on Terror and Operation Iraqi Freedom. From all of us here at AFN and Freedom Journal Iraq, have a safe day.